Welcome class to the second of the two explanation videos attached to the Mr. Wonderful assignment. In this assignment, you were asked to gauge the K value of springs and then come up with a known weight, or a calculated weight rather, and come up with a calculated weight of how much Mr. Wonderful needs to hold as he steps out of a storied window. Some key things for this assignment is setting up of tables and graphs. We've covered this in class once before, but this is a reminder, so we'll go through it rather quickly. We are currently on an Excel document. We're going to start off by coming up with our X and Y variables. So notice that our X is our variable that we control, so we're going to call that weight. And we're also going to pick our unit here. So for example, you might choose kilograms. Please match the spec document as you build this. It tells you which units to use. Second, we're going to have delta L. Delta L is simply the calculation of the bottom of Mr. Wonderful, or the bottom of the spring, before weight and after weight is added. So we're going to measure that in centimeters here. Once again, match your spec document. It tells you what to measure. So I'm going to put in some just generic weights here that we could have run. Maybe we ran 100 grams, which would be 0.1 kilogram, 200 grams, 500 grams, 750 grams, and 1 kilogram. And let's say for delta L, we managed to get 3 centimeters, 14 centimeters. We're going to get somewhere in the ballpark of 25 centimeters. As we look at it, maybe we get like a 40 centimeter. Let's say for the last one here, we managed to get stretched all the way out around 55 centimeters. So we have currently set up our table. Now, for it to be recognized as a table, we're going to select the data range and the titles here. We're going to go to Format as Table. It's located here on your Home ribbon under Styles. And I do not particularly care which one you choose. Choose one that you can kind of understand how it's laid out. I'm going to choose Table Style 1 Medium as my style. And it says, where is the data? We already selected it. And I'm going to make sure it says it has headers. So I want to make sure that this has a check in it. Notice I have a check. Hit OK. So now it's arranged this data for us into a table. Now from this table, notice I have this quick analysis toolbar, which pops up, which is nice. But instead, I'm going to go to the data here tab, and notice that because I now have this as a table, I can do all sorts of things such as querying the table, checking for duplication, validating data. All of this stuff is opened up because this is now a true table. Okay, last place we want to go, we're going to go Insert, and we're going to go Insert Charts. You can click through this menu, but I find it not as easy as the legacy menu. So we're going to hit this drop down arrow to get into the legacy menu. We're going to go to all charts, and we want a scatter. Notice that we're choosing the scatter without lines on it. And we want the one that shows our X and Y both being plotted here. We do not want the one with two different data sets being plotted. So we're going to select that, hit OK. It's going to generate our table. Now, first thing I want to point out, looking at my table here, my weight, which is what I can control, is my X, so it needs to be along the bottom. Is it? And then my delta L, what I measured, should be along the side. Is it? If it is not, you'll have to change up your data. To do that, you're going to go into Chart Elements, or double click on the chart itself to get into the data section over here to edit that. So let's show you how to edit your data points. So here I've clicked on my data collection, and it comes up over here with Format Data Series Options, and I can interact with those. So if I double click here, my series options, I plot series on the axis. I can also go to quick layout or change element. None of that's what I want to talk about. So let's look at how you change your data if this has been graphed wrong. We're going to click on our data here. So I'm going to choose my data points. Notice that they're all selected, and go select data. If they are simply flipped X, Y, I can actually switch these data around to get different types of data. But if when I switch it, I end up with something that is completely wrong, such as here where I have a series of stacked data points, this is clearly wrong. Then I'm going to have to go through and delete these. I can do that by clicking here and clicking remove. And then I can go in and add that data again. So what is my X value? I'm going to select that range, click enter. What is my Y value? I'm going to click here to select the range and then click enter. So now your graph's laid out. You got X and Y. You need to start adding labels. So we're going to include axis titles, chart title, and trend line on here. We're also going to hit the button over here to make sure this is a linear trend line. You may have data that is nonlinear if you didn't use a spring. So for example, an elastic band produces a nonlinear K value. You're going to want to go through and rename these, so you can click on that title and call it Mr. Wonderful Graph. You can label the axis title. So for example, I labeled my x-axis as weight carried in kilogram. Notice my use of the unit here in the title. Now I could add to this graph, insert a row, get a new column, and I could have a new spring and insert that data for the second spring here. So let's say it got 14, 24, 48, 56, 112. So notice that it has automatically for me filled in this data. Here in my blue data is that first column. My orange data is the second column. But how can I tell? It's not so obvious, right? I'd have to look at this last endpoint and go, oh, this one's like 100 some, so it's this one. So last piece of data we'll have you include on here is what is called a legend. So I've added a trend line for both, legend for both, and it shows that to me here. So now I can calculate that. Last thing you'll want to do is double click on those trend lines and hit display equation. These equations generate our K values for us as described in the spec document. So you're going to pay attention to this slope value because that is how you're going to find K. Since K is simply weight divided by delta L, rise over run. So notice here in this scenario, rise, delta L, is here, run, weight is here. So my graph is actually flipped from what I need it to be to get the correct calculations. So go back and apply that. Make sure that you have it set up so your rise over run results in the K calculation. So that's how you're going to do the basics of setting this up. Notice I did not complete it. You need to go through the whole process. You'll go ahead and create your table for all 3 springs worth of data that you're given. And then you're going to calculate a weight that would make Mr. Wonderful perfectly touch the ground utilizing this table technique and putting data into working model to verify it as a physical model. So if you get within 1.5 centimeters of the ground based on my calculation off of your data, then you will get 10 extra credit points towards this assignment. If you get within 5 centimeters of the ground, you will get an extra 5 credit points on this assignment. Look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Have a great day.